going on, Canucks fans, and welcome to episode 18 of Blackfish. My name's Tyson Cole. My co-host over there is Dave Hall, fresh off a trip to Buffalo, and we've got Jake Fraser hitting switches, making us look pretty in the back. Dave, how the hell was Buffalo?
It was great. It was, Buffalo, that place is a little tough, but, the experience in general was awesome. The floor was great. It was run nicely. It was just awesome being there. I'm, running off a little bit of lack of sleep right now, so I'm basically running off some vibes here, but overall it was a great experience, and I'm just super grateful for it.
You know those TikTok videos where it's like, oh yeah, get ready with me. Can you run us through the entire day of what it's like on day one of the draft and then day two, what it's like being a reporter covering the draft?
Well, day one was kind of cool because there's nothing in the morning until about 11, and then we popped over to the Buffalo Sabres at KeyBank Center. Have a really nice additional. I guess I'm assuming it's their practice facility, but they've got like multiple sheets of ice going on. So one thing that was going on, and I'll shout them out. It was I wasn't like super. Obviously, I was covering the draft, so I wasn't super into it. But they had a 48-hour long game going on, like a men's league, and they were doing research. I believe it was for cancer, but I apologize. I don't remember what it was, but they were doing like a 48-hour game, so that was kind of cool. That was going on the entire time. The score was like 3,001 to like 2,000 and something. It was pretty cool, but no, right next to there was another sheet of ice where it started out with the kids on most of the top eligibles, Chase Reed, Caleb Mahotra, all those guys, Gavin McKenna, they're out on the ice with the kids. Just some of the local kids out there. They even had some of the the bigger names. George Larocque was out there. Just some other NHLers were out there. It was pretty cool, and just watching some of the kids, some of the players, talk to all the kids, and Caleb Mahotra was having a lot of fun. Chase Reed was having a blast out there, and that's something I actually really liked. Like, he was just having a ton of fun. It's kind of interesting because you wonder how much is like for the schmoozing, because that they know everyone is watching them, and and judging them right before they eventually get picked, in the top 10 here. So, you wonder how much of it was them like making sure that they're on their best behavior. But for the most part, it looked like it was genuine, and they were having tons of fun. So that's how it started. And then from there, another bit of a break. Day one was just because day one didn't start till what, 4, I'm all mixed up with my Eastern and Pacific time, but over there it wasn't until 7. So, they did the red carpet at 5. That was kind of cool. Although we were there for the red carpet, and then all of a sudden the plan was to get inside, and we somehow missed the first half. We missed the first half of the red carpet somehow by trying to get inside because the lineup was big for media. But yeah, from there, get my table. I was on the draft floor, which was nice, right in front of the big screen. I was like, a couple of hands away from Justin Bieber. Once he was announced, and then day 2 was just crazy. Day 2 was just right from the get-go, they just started blasting out names. Whoever was there would go do interviews. Like, the setup was, you have the draft like on the floor. They have it set up where the rink is, and then the actual interview room and all the media stuff is like down the hallway. So anytime you kind of had to go back and forth, and for the most part you were doing most of your stuff in the actual interview room, not the draft table itself. So there was a little bit of back and forth. And then with the Canucks, it was unfortunate because out of their picks, and especially on day 2, I think only 2 were there for actual draft availability. Brizgalov, none of the guys were there. So that was one unfortunate. So we're waiting for all this for these kids to come in that never came. But no, overall it was awesome. It was tons of fun, and glad to be home though.
So you're on the draft floor, you're sniffing distance of Justin Bieber. When Caleb Malhotra's name gets called, what do? What do the reporters do? Give everybody kind of a lay of the land, what the job entails.
Well, this was my first experience, and what I can tell you was, so the whole plan was, like I said, they get picked, They do their stuff with the team that they just got picked from, and then they get taken into the interview room. Now that's awesome. Canucks picked at 24, obviously. So my plan was to go right into the interview room, be a part of the interview, great, and then go back and be present. The only issue with it was, they're doing all their things, and obviously Gavin McKenna's coming in first. So that was, let's say, half an hour after he was drafted, Gavin McKenna gets announced. And then after that, it wasn't even Ivor. It was another player. Someone else got announced that they were coming in. And long story short, Caleb Malhotra didn't end up coming into the interview room until like 2 hours after he was drafted. Maybe like an hour. Time was kind of not a thing over there, but it felt like it was 2 hours. But he didn't go third. He wasn't fourth. He was like the seventh person that was brought in. So by that time I had missed the entire top 10. What was going on in the draft floor. I didn't really even see what was happening. And then it was the same thing with the second one. So it's like I said, the whole thing was that they get drafted and then you go into the interview room and interview them. But with Caleb, he obviously had some other stuff to do. He was doing radio hits and all that stuff, which is awesome. But it was just kind of, you had no idea who was coming, what was coming. Obviously they had it figured out, but you couldn't really get information on who was coming next and when they were coming. So it was just kind of a lot of waiting until they finally came.
Yeah, I bet. And you said that there weren't too many. Obviously, the first rounders like Caleb and Adam were there. I think I saw Brooks Rogowski there as well. Who was the fourth? And then what can you kind of tell us about their interview? Like who kind of stood out the most to you?
I will say, actually, both Brooks and R.M. Olsen were really good speakers, but Brooks seems like a beauty. Like he seems like just a genuine dude. Natural first baseman. Like his story is pretty crazy, actually. Like dad, uncle, they both are drafted to the MLB. He is pretty much an aspiring baseball player up until just years ago. Like not even that long ago, he even admits he was. His whole pursuit was to get a scholarship in baseball. A very good first baseman, heavy hitter. And he just, he was super well spoken and just seems like a really nice dude. And then, he was actually at a high school game, a hockey game that an OHL scout found him. And, he's laughing. He's like, it feels like he just made up his mind yesterday when he was drafted 33rd overall that he's going hockey, like all of a sudden he was like, yeah, now I'm here. Like I'm drafted. This is crazy. Like, and it's not baseball. So like, that was his whole thing. So, multi sport athlete, and he just seems like a really awesome. He knows that like it's kind of funny the way he was talking. It was almost like, all these guys around me, like they've all put in all the work and they've done it. I have a long way to go. Like he knows that, understands that he's been very focused on baseball and that he's got these like raw tools that need to just be honed in a little bit. And so that's why he confirmed that he's going back to Oshawa for a year and then going to Michigan. So like it's like, I don't know. He just seems like he understands it. He's very articulate and just seems like he gets, he's going to work for it. Like he understands what needs to be done. And, with the 6'7" frame, it's not much more you can ask for it, to be honest. Like it's crazy that you got all this raw tools at 6'7" and you weren't even like hyper focused on hockey.
Yeah, it just goes to show what kind of athlete he is, right? Like if you could be competitive and be a serious consideration to go high in two sports, I mean that's a good athlete, and he seems to have a good head on his shoulders. So, and I mean you can't teach size, right? Quad's favorite thing is size, so that's good. I know we got a lot into the draft talk right now, and we will later on in the show, but we've got some Canucks news to talk about. Just this morning, as we record on Monday, Canucks made their first set of player trades. So they obviously made the trade on the draft floor with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but we finally see some players moving around, Dave. Nils Höglander, 2019 second-round pick going to the Nashville Predators in exchange for a 2029 third-round pick. I believe it's Colorado's, if I remember correctly from what I saw. So what was your initial reaction when you saw the deal go down?
Well, kind of split. I mean, on one end, I'm not happy about it. I like Nils Höglander. Like coming out, 24 goals 2 seasons ago. You're kind of hoping with the new regime, maybe he could get, a little bit more out of there. But at the same time, third rounder is not bad for him. Like to be quite honest, for what he's been doing, the fact that he can barely sniff, a lineup spot on a permanent basis, third round pick isn't terrible. I haven't, obviously it just happened. I haven't even really dissected it. This is more just, first 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 thoughts in my head. But like I said, I'm kind of split. I would have liked him to get a little bit more of a shot, but I do understand it. Like, he's not 21 anymore. He hasn't been able to sniff. He just hasn't looked like the same player he did when he scored all those goals. And so maybe he could get there, but it seems like he probably just needs a fresh start. And so, it's probably for the best. But I'm still a little bit bittersweet about it.
Yeah, I mean, Nils Höglander, the player on the ice, I mean, he's so fun to watch. Just that dog on the forecheck and buzzsaw little energy guy. Like, he was awesome. Unfortunately, it just didn't seem to work out in Vancouver. That he had so many coaches, and the one thing that all of the coaches had in common where they never could really trust him. So I don't know whether Nashville knows that or whatever. He just needs a fresh start. But I hope he gets that, because like you said, I like the person, I like the player. But it just didn't make sense to Vancouver. And honestly, they had to move out some bodies to bring in others. And to get a third round pick, I know he's a second round pick, but to get a third round pick, like, in this market, I think is pretty good. Like, let's not forget, obviously he had a really rough season, and I'm not gonna harp on the guy because he got injured in training camp or in preseason, because he looked really, really, really good in training camp. And then, obviously the injury derails his season a bit. He suffers another injury. He's under Adam Foote and all that chaos that it was. Only puts up 2 goals and 5 points in 38 games, averaged like 11:30, which is the lowest ice time he's ever averaged throughout his career. So it just seemed like the writing was kind of on the wall. Fresh start is probably best for both parties, especially if the Canucks want to make room for other players to come in, which they did in quick succession, because it's been rumored for quite a while, but they finally got it across the finish line. Brendan Gallagher comes over to the Vancouver Canucks from the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for future considerations, and Gallagher comes at 50% retained. So that's not bad. His base salary, I believe, is $4 million this year, even though his cap hit is 6.5. So the Canucks are only paying $2 million for him in real cash. So I honestly quite like the move. They're kind of similar players, him and Höglander, kind of undersized, but good forecheckers, good buzzsaw energy guys. But Gallagher's really good in the locker room. And what I really like is he just went through this type of situation in Montreal, a rebuild, a really young team. Everyone's coming up, and he can be that veteran presence. He wore an A in Montreal for a long time, so he brings that leadership. And since he's been through it, I think that's a perfect ad, especially for a guy who wants to be here, right? He's got roots in Vancouver, and to get him for next to nothing, I like that RJ kind of played hardball, because they were like, okay, well, if you don't give us assets for Gallagher, then we'll just buy him out. It's like, I don't think you will, because
No.
that means he's going to be on the cap for next season for you, and you don't want that. So may as well just give future considerations. It makes sense for both sides, especially in the direction that the Canadiens are going. You don't want to have $6.5 million sitting in the press box every single night, right? So get some use out of Gallagher. I really like the move, especially what he's going to do for the culture. Dave.
Yeah, I agree. And admittedly, this will show what time we're recording at, but I'm literally just finding out about this right now. I was getting everything prepared and ready for the show. And yeah, Gallagher. Okay.
You didn't know that?
I love it.
Breaking news.
Like I said, man, I got in. I got in super late last night. I'm trying to
got
get
a whirlwind going
prepared here. Yeah, I've got a whirlwind. So it must have just happened, because I was on my phone not too long before we went on, so it must have just happened not too long ago. Yeah, I like it. And it was for future considerations, you said.
Yeah, hate to see them go, but
yeah,
yeah,
that's a tough one. There were good guys in the room, but
tough.
I just, yeah, I agree. I think that's fine. The Canucks are in the at no point should you be worrying about money. It's always nice to get that half 50% retained, but like at no point, like Canucks fans need to realize that if you want the rebuild, like this is what needs to be done. Like this is a good move. You bring in a veteran guy who's not going to bitch and whine and complain that he's not getting top 6 minutes or even top 9 minutes, and he's just there for the vibes. Show these young kids what a professional does and how to work. I love it. I think Brett. We've wanted Gallagher for years, so it's about time it finally happens here.
Yeah, no, I agree. And especially coming into this rebuild, like you're not going to have a lot of people that want to come here and play in Vancouver unless you significantly overpay them. And Gallagher wants to be here. He wants to be a part of molding this next wave of Canucks hockey. So that matters to me, and it certainly matters to RJ and this regime to make the trade go through. Yeah. Any other takeaways about the move, Dave? What are your first thoughts about, he finally made a move, RJ finally made a move. Are you worried that like they weren't like, were you in the camp that it's like, okay, these prices are getting outrageously expensive. Like, how are the Canucks not making any moves, or were you on the patient side?
I mean, yes, I would love for them to make moves. Obviously, when you see the Bo Byram trade and all that stuff, the first thing that jumps off your mind is Hronek. But I'm also a realist, and you have to, as much as I want that to happen, and think they should have struck while the iron's hot. There's two things. First of all, we have no idea if Hronek is even convincible to move, and B, we have no idea that everyone even would offer anything like that. Like we have no idea what's on the table, right? So like we assume that Hronek would be, we think he's this crown jewel, trade piece, but at the end of the day, who really knows? But at the same time, this is, we saw already, like this was a decently shallow draft. We all thought it was pretty like a strong draft, but it turns out it wasn't that strong. And maybe if he does have a move in his hand, he wants it for next year. Maybe he wants that first round pick for next year to come in. So now he's gonna play him a shit ton this year and build up that momentum for him to get traded next year for a first round pick. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, just because he didn't strike at the first trade that came up. As soon as he saw what Bowen Byram got, we don't even know what he would have got. So I'm kind of two minds. Like I'm always the boring realist that just like realized there's more to it than just vibes and just like, we need to do this needs to happen. Like there's more to it than that, right? And so I like to think that if he's going to trade him, he's focusing on next year's draft, because next year's draft, we thought that about this year's, but next year's draft appears to be the draft that you want to be involved in. So
yep, I agree. I think they probably knew that, right? They probably had a couple things lined up on the table, and they're like, okay, well, we can do this, or we can wait a little bit, because that's why I was never worried. Like, I understand, like, you see all the shock of like, oh my God, these prices are crazy. Like, RJ's got to get in on this. But like, I like the patient approach, like if you don't like this draft this much, then why are you going to sell an asset right now just for selling an asset? It didn't make much sense to me. Now, like it's not like there's a deadline. Like the offseason hasn't even started yet. Like that's July 1st. That's when everything's going to start. And now, since a lot of teams have already made a lot of big moves, that means there's more demand for like a Jake DeBrusk and Elias Pettersson, possibly Phil Hronek. There's going to be higher demand for those guys. And so now the price might even be higher. And then instead of getting first round picks and futures in this year's draft, you can actually get it next year, which appears to be the better draft to be buying draft picks for. So I was never in the camp of, they need to make a trade right now. I was like, okay, let's be patient. I trust them. And I think they made the right move. And now you see that they're already making trades. And it sounds like, by all reports, that they're pretty encouraged and motivated to get some things done with an Elias Pettersson and a Jake DeBrusk. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, that if they got the offer that they were looking for, they would have pulled the trigger. Like I think they're willing to be a little bit like, they're not just going to come in super hot within 2 weeks and be like, all right, Let's make all the trades. You're going to give me a second for Petey? Perfect. Let's do it. Like, oh, you're going to give me 1 first for Hronek? Boom. Let's do it. Like, I think they're going to play the slow game here and, let them play and hopefully regain some of that, draft capital that maybe a few of them lost last year. Who knows? I mean, obviously it's probably not going to be a great year again, but I don't know. I just think that's how I've always felt, is that I think they're going to focus on next year's draft. It really felt, even in this year's draft being there, it really felt like they had, you know, they had a list, and I don't want to say they ran out of their list, but it almost just seemed like they're like, okay, we got our guys. And, this draft was just like, it ended in I'm going to say 4th round. You know what I mean? Like, there just wasn't a lot of once the 4th round finished, it was kind of like, okay, just take whoever you want. Like, there wasn't really any like targets left, whereas in past seasons there has always been a few targets that I thought were still available. This year seemed a little different. Like, it was a shallower draft than expected.
Yep I agree. So I'm excited for what's to come, because I think that we'll see some more trades kind of hit the news shortly coming up here, because I think free agency is going to be a dud, and so trade market's going to be hot, and it already appears to be with what we saw during draft week. Let's get back to the draft now, Dave. Let's just run through all the picks, and I'll just get, me and Jake recorded an episode on Sunday. If you haven't, it's just like a quick initial reaction piece or show. If you haven't listened, go back and listen. But this time, all we want is Dave's opinion, because we gave ours. So, Dave, it's time for you to let everybody know what you think. Because you're the one that everybody cares about here. You're the prospect guru. So,
Come on.
We'll start it off. And then we'll also give our picks on who we would have selected at that spot. So, Dave, 3rd overall, Caleb Malhotra. Did you like the pick? What was going through your mind when you heard his name?
Well, I think everyone knows where I stand on, Caleb Malhotra. I was hoping that they went in a different direction, but I've always stood by that if they did go Caleb Malhotra, I'm not going to hate the pick. Like, it's not like I don't not like the pick. I think he's going to be a great player. Seems to be a really good kid. Everything that he was saying on draft night, kind of shows that he's not going to let the whole dad son factor play a part. Hey, I'll eat crow. Like, I'm not, like, all day before the draft, all the people I was talking to, obviously I was out there talking to everyone and trying to introduce myself, and all the inklings that I had are that it really seemed like they weren't going to go Caleb. I had it like, I'm pretty, and that just goes to show what a crapshoot this draft, the draft floor and all these rumblings are, because I was 98% confident that they weren't going to go Caleb. And then it was about 30 minutes before the draft where I got one last tip, and I'm like, oh, I think it actually is going to be Caleb. I'm gonna eat crow here. It's going to be Caleb. And then, this is actually just for me, like, one thing I noticed. So right before the Canucks get, Ivor Stenberg goes, and then next on the clock is Vancouver. And about a minute in, I'm sitting down. I'm on my computer doing my thing. I look over to talk to, I think it was either Steven or Cam Robinson. And I look back over, and Chase Reed is walking towards me, going the opposite way, not to the draft, not to the podium. And so right off the bat, I knew it wasn't going to be Chase Reed. I don't know where he was going, but he left he had to go do something. And so I knew it wasn't Chase Reed. And then of course it was Caleb Malhotra. I can't put, like, it's just so funny how the draft always goes. You think, and then all of a sudden Daxon Rudolph goes 4, and then Chase Reed slides to 7th. But no, back to the Canucks. It's fine. Like, obviously, like I said, I wanted a different direction, but at the end of the day, now that he's the pick, you've got your character guy. Him and Braden Coots are going to fight over who's captain in 5 years. They're going to fight over, it's going to be Caleb Malhotra 2, Braden Coots 3, probably down the middle. And at the end of the day, you're going to win hockey games with 2 centermen like that. Like, it's not a bad scenario. Would I have went a different direction? Probably, just for various reasons. But now that he's the pick, I don't think it's a bad pick.
Yeah. Despite what we said on the show, like, it's fine. I think our biggest argument was it can't be him over Stenberg. Like, it just couldn't.
No, yeah, totally.
clear gap there in our viewings, and so I'm happy that he wasn't there. We don't have to live with that. Like if looking back on it, so yeah, I think I agree. I think it's a good pick. What I do like about it is it kind of opens them up for whatever they want next year. Like if you go with Chase Reed there, like obviously you're still going to take Landon Dupont. It's just a little murky now because you got Tom Villander, Chase Reed, Landon Dupont. Landon Dupont and Chase Reed are like both those right shot offensive defensemen. So, and then you've got Zbuima on the other side. So might have just caused some confusion, but now if you shore up your middle six there, middle six centers, then I mean you're free to take one of the future 1Cs that appear to be in next year's draft.
Well, and it's tough too because it's like, okay, you don't want Caleb Malhotra. I liked Vigo over Caleb. Okay, well he slides to 8, and like, oh, I like Chase Reed. I wanted Chase Reed. Well, he slides to 7th. So like
goes to show what Dave. Just kidding.
Well, no, seriously. Like, I wanted Vigo, and like I think most people are still on that train, but it's just like, and maybe Caleb slips to 7 if the Canucks don't take him. But it just goes to show, like, I don't think it, it's the pick. It's fine. Again, I would have probably went in a different direction, but that's just me. And he's gonna be he was always gonna be a fine player. It was I do agree that that was the big thing though. If it was Ivor, it had to have been Ivor. But once Ivor and Gavin were off the table, it was insert name here really.
Mm-hmm. Who would you have taken with how the draft board was? Who would have been Dave's?
I would have taken Chase Reed. I would have taken Chase Reed. I was Chase Reed. I am Chase Reed. I like Chase Reed. I think he's going to be a really good steal for the Seattle Kraken. I just think it's a home run for them.
Yep. I wrote about it at CanucksArmy, grading all the picks, and then I also added who I would have selected in that spot. So I would have gone Carson Karls. I've said it on the show many, many times, like a 6'2", big, physical, two-way defenseman. What do you got?
A lot of talk about his concussions. There was a lot of talk about that at the draft, about like there was a lot of talk about him maybe slipping a little bit. He didn't end up, but there's some, yeah. Anyways,
he seems like a perfect Calgary Flame. Let's be honest.
Yep, totally.
He was on the farm for the draft. He had the belt buckle and everything. Like he seems like a perfect Calgary Flame, but just based on what I've seen and everything, I would have gone Carson Karls. Anyway, fast forward to pick 24, Dave. What was your reaction when you're at pick 20? You're like, okay, Novotny's still on the board. Is there a chance? What was going through your head? Were you excited? Like, what was going on?
Up until they actually were on the clock, there was no way he was available. Like I didn't even think of it. It's funny, I didn't even write a draft profile on him because I just didn't even think it was an option, yeah, like as soon as his name was off, like I'm just like, I tweet it right away, like, this is crazy. And yeah, he gets picked. Like I think it probably even shocked the Canucks, and I think the Canucks probably had a list of players that they were going to take at that spot, and I think even they were probably like, what are we going to do? Like, we have to take this. Like, this has to be the pick. It's no one else. And so I think their hands were forced, and they ran up to the podium and took out Novotny. It's just a tremendous pick. Like, I'm not saying that Novotny is going to be this like superstar player, and we should all hail on the ground he lives on. But to get him at 24, I just think is just really good, prudent value. Like, you're not going to find a one-shot goal scorer who forechecks like a maniac, who puts everything out on the ice, who's for all intents, like for everything I've heard, is a fantastic guy. Like, he's one of those guys that like Jake will know, like, playing against guys like this, like, who hits you and then like stares at you and laughs and says, I got you good, eh? Like, laughs about it, like, has fun out there. Like, I just think overall he's just such a great player, and to get him at 24, I think that's a slam dunk pick. There's no notes on this one. I wouldn't have taken anyone. That's my pick. Obviously I had different directions only because I had no idea that Novotny would be available at 24.
Yeah, like we had him in like the teens, like the mid-teens.
Everyone had him in the teens.
Yeah, so the fact that he fell, I mean, he's got the size, he's got the weight, he's got the shot. Like, like you said, he's a dog out there on the forecheck. And what I really like about the pick is, like, we had we thought there was kind of a significant drop. There was obviously the top two, and then there was a drop off at like 9, and then there was probably a drop off somewhere in the early 20s before the Canucks pick. And so the fact that they were able to get one of the guys that we had in the teens that was in kind of that second, third group, thought it was a home run. So I'm assuming you still would have picked him.
Yep.
If we're doing like who I would have picked, yeah, like clear slam dunk pick. We're happy to move on. Fast forward now to the second round, 33rd overall. Brooks Rogowski, 6'7" center, can't teach size. Dave, what'd you think about that pick?
Well, now that the draft is over and there's a little bit of foreshadowing, it's not as bad. Only because, and I'll explain why after. But so at the time, it's tough because you start day one. The world is your oyster. You have the entire draft list in front of you, minus 32 players. And there's just so many. Obviously, we're big Preston fans on this show. We had him on the show. Not even him. There's a few other options. I just think there was a little bit of value left, and like it is a little bit early. Like I know. The thing is like he was going to get taken. Like even though he's probably a mid second rounder, he's probably going to get taken if the Canucks don't take him by the time he's like. But that's the thing. You have to kind of like, it's not only what pick you want to make, but also who you think is going to be gone by the time you pick next. And even though Brooks Rogowski isn't the flashiest of players, I do think he probably would have been gone by 41. So I think they understood that. And I think their thought process was probably, if they want to make a bet on upside, there's a list of like 3 players that will probably still be available at 41 that they can take that upside. And with a guy like Brooks Rogowski, you're just not finding, like, he skates very well and he's 6'7". He's willing to go to the greasy areas. Like you can just envision him in front of the net on the penalty kill. So I think like he's a bit of a unicorn. And like I said, at the time, I think there is some value left on the table. So I'm not thrilled on the pick, but at the same time, I do understand their thought process when they do go in 41 and do go Nicholas Olsen, because I think they probably knew that they were going to get their upside swing at 41. So again, not thrilled on it. I think there was some value left on the table, but at the end of the day, he's still going to be a player. Like he's going to probably play NHL games, which is what you want. Right, like at this point of the draft, you're just hoping you're getting NHL games out of kids. After you go after, outside the top 20, you're just hoping that these kids play NHL games, and I think he's going to. He just needs some stuff to work on. He's a bit of a long project, but yeah, I'd say I'm 60% on the pick. I understand why they did it.
Yeah, that was my kind of issue with it. Like I still like the pick. Like you can't teach size and everything, and he's very raw, so he's got to develop. And who knows, he might have like a Tage Thompson like trajectory, where he's he takes a little while to fully develop, but then he's got like, I don't know, how is his shot, Dave? Like is it up there, or is he more of a playmaker?
It's good. I mean, he's not like I don't think he's going to be a huge points guy. Like in general, playmaker or a shot. Like he's just a big, fast skating, decent hands. Like he's just a decent player. I peg him as probably a bottom 6, 40-point guy at best. Yeah, but there's also a place for that.
Yeah, but the problem for me is like, okay, you kind of went safe floor in Caleb Malhotra, right? Like he's pegged to play NHL games, and Novotny fell into your lap, and that's a good pick, but it's still a floor pick, right? Like he's going to play NHL games, and like hopefully he can hit that upper echelon and be a top 6 forward. So you've gone floor. You have the first pick in the second round. You lead off day 2. You have like 12 hours on the clock to think about it, and you go with another safe floor player. Like, I don't know, I would have preferred like a higher upside swing. And now obviously you mentioned they think they can get that at 41, and they did, but what if they didn't? What if they couldn't? Right? Like now what? You just got 4 floor players. Like obviously it worked out for them, but I don't know, like you see the 33rd overall pick and you're like trying to get excited, like, okay, yeah, this can be the swing. And then it was Brooks Rogowski. Like, I don't know, I just don't love necessarily that you're taking a guy who's like sure, he's going to play NHL games, but he's not going to be a big point contributor, and he's going to play in your bottom six. I'm like, okay, that I feel like you did leave a little meat on the bone there, even though I do
You
like his
definitely
size
did.
and profile. Yeah, so especially considering you went floor, like I didn't like 3 floors in a row. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I said, I'm like about 60% on it. I don't love it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I mean, I was a Mathis Preston guy from day one. There was a couple names that I would have been happy with, not just Preston. I mean, there's some like real hard truthers on Mathis Preston. I mean, at the end of the day, Mathis Preston has just as many hurdles as Nicholas Olsen does. Like it's not like Mathis Preston is like, you know, he's still got work to do. So it
Yeah,
didn't have to be Mathis Preston. I wanted him, but it didn't have to be him. But I do agree that there was some swings that you could have taken. I mean, heck, even a Casey Mutrin, you still get a bit of floor, but you still get a little bit of fun off it. Like, I don't know. There's a few names that I think you could have went. And so, yeah, I like the thing is like I said, he was going to go around that area or like that zone, whether it was the Canucks or not. He was probably going to be a pick in the 30s. So,
yeah, you weren't going to get him at 41, in my opinion. So, Dave, who would you have picked?
um, I I probably just would have went Preston. I probably wouldn't have overthought it. I probably would have went Preston. I mean, he did slide to 50. So again, shows what we know. Like he did slide to 50. But I don't mind the rubric um swing by Chicago there. Like, I mean, they went swing. They went Villeneuve
Mm-hmm.
and rubric back to back. But I don't mind rubric there. Like he does have a lot of work, but he's also got some size and that big upside. But I probably would have just went Mathis Preston. Take the WHL, take the Vancouver kid, the Vancouver Giant, and just go with the upside swing. Make the fans happy. Like I'm sure you've seen that we wanted him, so just take Mathis Preston.
Yeah, that was the pick I had. That's who I would have selected as well, just purely on skill, and I wanted to take that upside swing after going floor to floor. So, Preston would have been my pick as well. 41, Dave, Nicholas Aramolson, another one of your guys. Everything was coming up Dave Hall at the draft in Buffalo. So tell us about Aramolson, and I'm assuming you love the pick.
I like it. Like it's yeah, an upside swing. I mean, he's a project. He's got a hell of a shot. He's a really good skater. He's one of the more explosive skaters in this class. So you love it. He still has to work out a lot of 200-foot game. He's still got to get a lot of size on him. But he's super athletic and he can score goals. So I like the upside swing at 41. I love that he's going to BU with Caleb Malhotra. I just think that's going to be a really nice a chance for him to kind of build on that 200-foot game that I think the Canucks are kind of hoping they can get out of him. He kind of reminds me of a little bit of like Mackie, where you're getting that amazing shot, but he's going to have to work on everything else. I mean, the one nice thing about Nicholas Aramolson, he's a way better skater than Lekar Mackey, but he's got that smaller stature, like doesn't really cut to the middle a lot. And, he's going to have to round out a bit more of a peripheral game if he's going to make it. So, he's not a for sure thing, but he's the kind of bet that you're hoping to make at 41. Like it's kind of bet we were hoping they were making at 33, but at 41, it's fine by me. Love the pick. Good value at 41.
What are the range of outcomes for a guy like this? Like, what's his ceiling? What's his floor?
That's the issue. It's like Mackie. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of top 6 or bust. Like I don't think he's playing a peripheral role. So like
Mm-hmm.
it's tough to say. Like he feels like a guy that he has to be in your top 6. He has to be on the power play and he has to be contributing. Like that's the value you're getting from him because that's the type of player he is. Like even in his interviews, like he always says like what do you like to do in hockey? And he says score goals. He's a goal scorer. He likes to shoot and he likes to produce. So he's going to need, where like a guy like Adam Novotny, he's got the shot, but he's also going to block a shot at the end of the game. Whereas Aramolson's not going to really do that. So he's kind of a top 6 or bust. No, sorry, not bust. I shouldn't say that, but like he needs to be in the top 6 and he needs to be scoring goals.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. Who would have been your pick here?
I like it. I'll go Aramolson here, especially after Rogowski. You went safe. I'm fine with it. I mean, again, sorry. I guess you could have also went Mathis Preston. Now that I think about it,
No,
you could
but
have
in this
went.
world, you have already taken Mathis Preston at 31 or 33. You can't take
Oh,
Preston
you're right.
again.
Oh, that's how we're doing it.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, if I already have Mathis Preston, then I am definitely not taking RM Olsen.
Mm.
Oh, let me just dive back. Well, I mean, I'm not going to go too unsure bets. You know what? I probably would
But
have
you
went. I
just
probably
went
would have
too
went a bunch.
safe in the first round, so take 2 swings in the second round.
Yeah, but these swings are like they need to hit top six. There's swings you can take that can still play round but like depth rolls that are still
Hmm.
swings to go maybe a top line like a top six player, but still have that B game to be a little more so like a Ryder Kelly. I think I'd go Ryder Kelly here because I still think there's a little bit of meat on the table in terms of offensive upside, but he's also got that B game that he's going to be, he's probably going to play NHL games and he can play in your bottom six. Whereas both Mathis Preston and RM Olsen, they just feel like players you need to put in your top six. I mean, obviously both those players can still maybe carve out a third line role. I'm not saying they can't. It just like they're going to need a lot of work to do that. Like that's not their profiles. So I think if I did go Mathis at 33, I'm okay with the Ryder Cali here.
Yeah, well, you take 2 of them, then you only need to hit on 1, right? So that's
Sure,
why I don't mind.
I don't
It's
like
like, what
that's
happens if Aram Olsen doesn't hit? What happens if he doesn't hit? Then you have
what
no
happens
upside
if
swing.
Mathis Preston doesn't hit.
Yeah, well, at least you
Now
have
you
2
have no,
shots
now
at the
you have
can
nothing. You
rather than
wasted 2
1.
second rounders. You can't just go wasting 2 second rounders on
I don't think you're
like
wasting
home
because
run
you've got your
swings.
floor guys already.
Well, no, in this case,
You got your floor guys in Malhotra and Novotny.
yeah, I sure. I just think in Ryder Cali's case, like you're still getting a player regardless, and
Mm-hmm.
you could still get more out of him. So like I don't know. I like for me, I'm all for upside swings, but I also like I get wanting to still extract a player out of it, and like I, I don't know. I can see both sides. I guess maybe I'm not that risky that I would just want to go like full blown upside. I think if you have two picks in the second round, I think you can switch them up and go, take a nice swing, but also get some safe value in there. But that's just me. I would have went Ryder Cali.
What about this swing, Dave? Round 3, 78 overall, Dmitry Ivchenko. Admittedly, we aren't goalie guys, but what do you know briefly about him?
Yeah, by all accounts, I mean his numbers were fantastic, and they have been for a couple of years. He was a backup last year in the NHL, so hopefully he gets more of a role. But as soon as I make the pick, I look over. I'm sitting next to Steven Ellis and Cam Robinson, and then there was a couple other guys, Columbus guys, and just some really nice people. But like Steven Ellis, he's a goalie guy, and he thought he should have been the pick. So I looked at him and asked him about him, and he says he's good. He's confident in the net. It's interesting that they went another Russian, so now they've got 2 Russian goalies. But for all accounts, he seems like a really good prospect. I'm obviously going to do a little bit of digging here, and get a better sense of him because goalies are tough. Goalies are just such voodoo. Like, yeah, he could have good numbers now, but that just end up being nothing. He could end up being an absolute monster. I can't confidently say this, but so I like the pick. I think it's nice to go goalie. I really do. I really, really, really do feel that their list was short and they just wanted to get their goalie guy and then they just went for swings after that. Like I think this was their final, like this is the guy we really wanted and we can wipe our hands now. And I like it. Go goalie. He seems really good. It seems like a good bet.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about what Russia's doing in net right now because they're just churning out A-level goaltender after A-level goaltender. So I don't mind going Medvedev last year and then Ivchenko this year. I thought it was a little early, though, to take a goalie. I know that we had Quads on, and he was saying that there was going to be a bunch kind of later on in the draft, and that probably would have been my preferred swing. But yeah, I don't, like you said, if he had great numbers in the MHL, and if Ian Clark likes this guy, I have no reason to doubt his thought process and everything because he's the goalie guru. So not going to knock this pick at all. Who would you have picked in this situation?
Um, I mean, I actually kind of like the pick, but obviously I didn't know him too well, so you know, I guess maybe I wouldn't have picked him. But let's just take a look here. Where are we? Where are we? Third round. I mean, if you really wanted to go your upside swing, you could have went Thomas Shranko here. If you really liked your, you know what? Who I probably would? I probably would have went your boy Niels Bartholson. I
Oh
think
yeah.
I really like his. I really like his profile. He's got a little bit of everything, and he's still got that B game. You know, he went just maybe 10 picks later. I think he would have been a nice pick here, but I'm actually okay with the goalie. But if it was me, I probably would have went Nils.
Yeah, that's fair. I I didn't know much about the goalie, so I can't confidently say that I would have taken him here. So, I in mine I went Thomas Shrenko, just because he was falling, right? Like he was projected kind of in that early second round, and then you get him in the third round. Thought it would be good value, and I remember watching him, I believe, at the World Juniors, and he was impressive. So, um, like that pick there. Yaroslav Brizgalov. We're kind of getting into the fourth round swings here. So, Dave, just quickly on Brizgalov, and then maybe give who you would have picked as well.
Yeah, needs to work on his skating. Really interesting profile. Like he's got really good size, you know, decent playmaking, but he needs to work on his skating. That's going to be the biggest factor for him. But otherwise, like a decent swing. Actually, I don't mind it in the fourth round. I would. It's not who I would have went. But you know, he's got an interesting profile. Like he was playing with the Rucks. You know, yeah, double ager, but a younger double ager. So. Yeah, it's tough. The skating is definitely going to need to be because he needs to work on that big time. But you do like the hands. So and we're also in the fourth round of this kind of draft. I would have went Tyus Sparks here. That's who like there is actually a nice run like right after Brizgalov that I actually loved. I believe it went Barabanov, Tyus Sparks, Spencer Bowes, Thomas Vanderberg, all basically right after each other. And I thought that was like a really, really nice, like middle of the fourth, stretch there. So I
Mhm.
probably would have went Ty Sparks here. Ty Sparks was like kind of my mid round guy. I just really like his game. I actually do think he's got some top six potential with, a pretty safe bottom six projection kind of thing.
Yeah, Ty Sparks has a wicked, wicked shot, but considering that they went Novotny, who's got that, Nicholas Aramolson, I was like, okay, maybe they don't like to go for a sniper. Um, yeah, I watched Brizgalov briefly in the at the WHL Top Prospects game. He was fine. He was kind of buried in the lineup, but yeah, he
Big
was
boy.
he was okay. Yeah, he's 6'3.5", I believe. Anyway, my pick would have been Jacob Flores, 6'3",
Yep.
right shot defenseman. He's a good skater, toolsy defenseman. Um, not afraid to get physical. And I mean, to this point, the Canucks hadn't selected a defenseman yet, so I was like, okay, it's probably time to get on that train. And I thought Flores as a right shot and with the size and skating and everything, I thought that wouldn't have been too bad of a swing. Then to lead off round 5, Dave, Connor Davis. And I got to be honest, didn't know anything about this guy. So what can you tell us?
No, not many people did, to be honest. Like he wasn't even really listed on many people's rankings. You know, he's an overager as well. I
Mhm.
believe what was he, 200th North American skater ranked, something like that. And then typically not even ranked among pundits. Like I don't even think he's in Elite Prospects Guide, which is not a good thing.
He's
But
not.
no, and it's like dual threat workhorse. Like he works his ass off. He had a pretty good year this year in the USHL. Like it is a nice bet from what I can tell. I'll have to do a little again. Admittedly, I wasn't super familiar with him. I'm not going to just act like I knew exactly who Davis was. So I'm going to have to do a little bit more digging on him. But first glance, it looks like an interesting pick. It kind of gives it kind of it's kind of interesting. Like it does remind me, they went back to back overagers. It was kind of like that Ty Mueller, Matthew Perkins, back to back that they went in the fourth round in 2003, I believe it was. And so, you're hoping he's more the Ty Mueller, not the Matthew Perkins side of things. But yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit more digging on him as the week goes by, and but from everyone that I've talked to and everything that I've seen, it looks like a decent swing.
Who would you have taken?
Beckham Edwards of the Sarnia Sting. The Detroit Red Wings got him. Don't know if he's going to be an AHLer, but I think there's enough in the toolkit that could suggest that he does. He works hard. Hasn't been a huge producer at the OHL level, but I just kind of like the profile in the 5th round. I think it's, why not? I was pretty familiar with his game, so he was on my targets list. So Beckham Edwards from the Sarnia Sting is who I would have went.
Lucien Bernat in the 6th round. The Canucks grab him. Another guy with a frame, 6'3", kind of power forward profile. What'd you think of that one?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, man, at this point of the draft, you're really just you're just throwing darts. Like there's a lot of these, like most of these guys weren't there. You're just throwing darts, hope that it sticks. I like the profile. A guy from like they finally dip into Finland. I don't know. I don't know too much about him just because he's a bit of a flyer that they kind of they picked off the board. But I'm okay with it. I don't really mind any of the picks they made. Like I don't know enough about him to say that I don't like the pick. So I'm okay with it.
Who would you have taken?
I mean, it's kind of tough, but I probably like looking down the list. I'm just looking who was taken after, just trying to get a. Like I don't mind who the Oilers took Caden Harvey. I think he's a pretty good guy. I mean, if you really wanted to go some upside, you could have went Jonas Wu. But I probably would have taken Caden Harvey, which was Edmonton Oilers draft pick.
Yep, not bad. I realized I didn't mention who I would have taken in the 5th round for the Connor Davis selection. Georgos Pantelis. I believe I watched him again at the WHL Top Prospects game, and he's just physical.
He's
defensive defenseman. Yeah, he did. And so I thought that would have been a good pick, especially because the Canucks didn't have a defenseman at that point. And then for me, they would have had Flores and Pantelis and in the 4th and 5th round, and I would have liked that. For the Bernat selection, my guy Cole Zarowski, dude. He's the athlete that I was talking about in the late round gems. I was like, damn, that guy's got work ethic and everything. And he had the tale of 2 seasons where he was good offensively to start, and then that kind of tapered off. But then he developed his physical game and his forechecking game and his defensive game in the second half of the year. So that just goes to show me that this guy's going to do whatever it takes to make an impact on a team. So I would have really liked that pick, but I believe he went to the Flyers, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, Samuel Eriksson. I'm actually going to lead this one off, Dave, because I called it. You got Adam Novotny. You got Nicholas Aram-Olsson. I get Samuel Eriksson in the 6th round.
Love it.
I mentioned him in an episode of Blackfish and late round gems when I was talking about Cole Zarowski. Samuel Eriksson was one of my late round gems to target. Little honorable mention there, but 6'6", very raw defenseman, but he can kind of bring that physical, mean style of brand of hockey, just like DPD. And we see how much everybody loves DPD. So I thought adding him would have been great. And then they went out and did it. So shout out RJ for listening to the show and hearing that. What did you think of that pick?
Yeah, I'll take it. I mean, they need finally a defenseman, finally a Swede. They dipped into 2 of their most, natural places to go with the draft. So they finally did it. And it's a fine bet. Fine bet. At the 7th round, you're just hoping something sticks. I really like their bet that they made with Basil Samsonins a couple years ago. Obviously, Kirill Kudradzev, 7th round pick. So who knows?
Yeah. Who would you have picked?
No, I'm good. I'm good with it.
We were pretty lockstep on who we would have picked. So look at us go, the Blackfish boys, getting it done. Any last takeaway? If you had to give the full grade of the Canucks' draft, what would you give it?
I think it's an A, maybe A minus. I think it's definitely in the A's though. Like, again, you can say what you want about it. Like, but at the end of the day, you want three, hopefully four, but at least three players to make it to the NHL out of your draft crop, and I think they did it. And in this draft, I can't emphasize enough. Like after the fifth round, it really is just like you can't really judge any of those later picks. Like I just think the fact that you got Adam Novotny, the fact that Caleb Mahotro, who's going to be a player, Brooks Rakowski, I think they did well. I really do. They got some upside swings, they got some goal scoring, they got some power, they got everything that you need. The only thing they didn't do was really go defense, but we talked about it many times. They didn't need that, and so I think it's an A. Whether it's an A minus, like maybe because of some of the they didn't. Maybe Brooks, I don't know. Maybe it's an A minus, but I still think it's in the A's, and I definitely liked what they did. I just think if you're getting three NHLers out of your draft, that's a good process.
Dave, I brought this up on yesterday's show, and I just want to get your opinion on it. So the Canucks changed regimes, but they haven't changed the way they drafted. So if you go to 2020 to 2024, if you look at those 5 drafts and look at the state of the team at the time, what was it? They were good down the middle of the ice. They needed defensemen. So what did they do? They had 29 picks. They selected 14 or 15 of those picks were spent on defensemen. And they didn't draft any centers because they're like, oh, we got Miller, we got PD, we got Horvat. We're good. We don't need to draft down the middle. So they drafted 5 centers over those 5 years, and none of them ahead of round 4. So, and now look at it, because now they need centers, right? They need centers badly. So the fact that they didn't draft any impactful centers over those 5 years, that's what's biting them in the ass today, right? But now, since they drafted all those defensemen, their defensemen are stacked. You got Bouillon, who you didn't draft, but you got via trade. You got Willander, you got DPD, you got Mancini via trade. And then you look at their other defense crops, like who do they have in the wings? Like Kirill Kudryavtsev and Sawyer Minio? Like, sorry, you still need to add to the defense. And the fact that they only took one in the 6th round, like, I don't love that. That's not like, you have to replenish all of the positions, right? Not just what you need right now. Because look at last year. They needed a center. And 4 of their 6 picks were used on a center. And they didn't draft a single defenseman. And then this year they needed forwards. So 7 of their 9 picks were used on forwards. They didn't draft the D until the late 6th round. So like, are you seeing kind of the same situation going on right now where like, hey, yeah, great, you're going to have forwards, but in a few years you're going to need defensemen and you're going to have a plethora of forwards, and then like you don't have anyone kind of waiting in the wing. You don't know what's going to happen. What happens if DPD, Willander, and Bouillon don't work out? Do you have that next guy to come up? No, because you haven't drafted like that in 2 years.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm not gonna be so dramatic about it in one draft. I like not saying you're being dramatic, but I'm not. I don't mind
It's 2 drafts
too
now.
much.
It's back-to-back drafts. It's 6 drafts now.
Yeah, but I'm looking. I'm okay. I'm looking at the list right now. I'm looking at the defensemen that were available. I'm not going any other direction. You needed forwards, so in the first 2 rounds, I'm sticking to my guns and doing what they did and going forwards. Like
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But later, when you're
maybe
talking about taking your stabs and stuff, why are you taking stabs at
yeah,
forwards? Take your stabs at D.
sure. Yeah, I mean that's fine. Like looking at the list though, like I just like at some point you just gotta scout them and realize that they're just not going to be players. Like at least these players, they think they could maybe extract a little bit of value, and like maybe Davis can be a Ty Mueller type, like I don't know, like it just like maybe, yeah, sure, Pantelis, sure. It's just there wasn't a lot of defense that you're like looking at that you see any raw tangibles that could do anything. Like I don't know, like it. I'm not. I'm not really. I'm not just gonna draft defensemen to draft defensemen. Like if I scouted them and I don't think they're a worthy pick, I'm gonna trust my scouting staff and not take the pick. Like I think like what they need is that like they do need. You're right. They do need to start taking some more defensemen, but it's also like I don't know, swing for the fences in the 4th round. I don't know. There just wasn't. There's just not a ton of. There wasn't a ton of defensemen that like sparked my interest. that, I thought was like a super, they need to take this guy over this guy. Like, I don't know. I get what you're saying. I'm not too worried about it just yet. I still think they do have, like, they're young enough that they got enough in the pipeline. Now, if they do it next year, then yeah, now we're talking. Like, I'm hoping next year they can kind of switch their motto, and in the second round, instead of going for upside forward swings, they can start going for some defensive stuff. I don't know. I wasn't too worried about it. Not in this draft. There just wasn't enough defenders that I liked.
Yeah, I'm just talking more of like the trend though. Like, they just draft what they need right now, and then they worry about the future kind of later, right? Because it's like, okay, well, we don't need defense right now, so we're not actually going to take any of them. We're just going to wait. And that's been like that for 2 years. They've drafted one defenseman in the last 2 years.
Yeah, fair.
Like, I don't know.
Anyway. I mean, it was definitely a Tard Harvey draft. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Like, you could see right from the, like, size, like, safe floor, like, aside, Novotny just kind of fell to them, and that's fine. But it was definitely a Todd Harvey draft.
Yeah, and that's, I don't know. Like, we've done this song and dance before. We've seen the Canucks go size over skill multiple times, and it usually bites them in the butt. We've got free agency coming up on Wednesday, and we've got Dev Camp. We'll go over Dev Camp next year and next week and the takeaways and all that from there. But Dave, I just wanted to do a little preview into the UFA's free agency. I know we're not really expecting the Canucks to do much. Ryan Johnson said as much. Like, the talent pool is not fantastic. There's not going to be an impact player. They just don't get to free agency anymore. They like to make the trades, and like, okay, like Alex Tuch went for a 3rd round pick. John Carlson just went for a 6th round pick. So players aren't getting to free agency. So we'll see how active the Canucks are. But is there anybody on the list that you're kind of eyeing? Because it seems like the Canucks want to add size and they want to add toughness and everything. So I just thought maybe it'd be fun to, like, predict, like, okay, give one forward, one defenseman that you think, hey, the Canucks might sign this guy. And then, hey, if we're right, we'll give you a victory lap on next week's episode.
I mean, the problem with me this year is, like, there just isn't really anyone that I'm, like, super hurrah about, like, who's
okay. Well, what about this? Like, I'll change the question.
Who were the big fish this year?
Yeah, I don't know, like Jacob Trouba.
Like, he
doesn't sign with the Canes.
But I don't know. Do I want them? Do I want John Carlson coming in on a losing
team? No,
you
just said who are the big fish. You just said who are the big fish.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
Like, they aren't going to sign in Vancouver. That's what I mean, though. Like I said, they're trying to add size and depth down the middle, and, like, good culture guys. So, like, they're going to sign somebody. So who do you think it is?
Let's go with, I mean, who would be awesome, and I don't think they're going to get him, but Boone Jenner would be a sick get. Mm-hmm. I would be all for Boone Jenner. Again, at this point, I don't think there's any, like, big fish that they're going to be in on. So I'm just going to say Boone Jenner. I would love for them to get a culture guy like Boone Jenner. Plus, he's got some underrated skill in there as well. So I'm going Boone Jenner. I know it's not going to happen, but I like Boone Jenner.
Yep. Yeah, that's not a bad one. I'll change the question then. Who are some players that you can see on the list that the Canucks can bring in, and, like, realistically, because I don't think Laine's going to come here, but he would be kind of the perfect candidate where you can sign him, give him heavy minutes, and then trade him at the deadline? Because you just saw Anthony Mantha has done this for the last 2 years. He signed with Calgary 2 years ago, obviously tore his ACL, but he was supposed to be this big player, didn't really pan out. So now he was going to go to a bad team, play heavy minutes, and then they were going to resell him at the deadline. Then he did the same thing this year for Pittsburgh. Turns out Pittsburgh was actually good, so they couldn't move off of him. But that was the idea that Pittsburgh was going with. So I want the Canucks to kind of have that similar mindset. So I'm just wondering, is there anybody on the list that you can see that the Canucks can go out, kind of get him on the cheap, rebuild his value, flip him for picks at the deadline? Because that's how rebuilding teams get ahead, is by bringing in these guys and flipping them later.
Victor Arvidsson, 54 points in 69 games. Like, could he be?
No, that's
I mean,
not a great example though, because he had a good year. He
yeah,
had a good
that's
year.
true.
You have to rebuild these guys' value. Arvidsson's
Okay,
already done
gotcha.
that in Boston, right?
Oliver Bjorkstrand,
That's a good one. That's a good one because he
32
had a
point
bad year.
32 points in 80 games. Yeah, 32 points. He's struggled.
Yeah, and he was good in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
I think they traded a bunch of picks. I think 2 first-round picks for him and a package of him and Yanni Gord.
Yeah,
So
31-year-old right shot.
Dare I say Andrei Kuzmenko? If you keep Pettersson, him and Petey were dialed in together. Maybe that can be what sparks him again. He's a good locker room guy. He's hilarious. I mean, it could happen again. You're telling me you wouldn't want to see Kuzmenko on this team again? He was a riot. He was a riot.
I loved Kuzmenko. I loved Kuzmenko.
Yeah, he was great. Anyone on the defensive side? And I guess it's not fair to say like rebuild his value and then trade him for the defensive side. You typically see that in forwards. You don't often see that in defensemen, but I mean, the Canucks I think they want to they're letting Forbort go. It was just reported this morning that Canucks won't be qualifying P.O. Joseph. So they kind of need to sign another defenseman, another vet. Anybody out here that you think, yeah, that might be good for the kids to have this guy on the team?
Let's see. Let me just take a quick look at I mean, man, I really like Nick Blankenberg. I think that'd be a nice pick. I don't know if they really need him. Nick Jensen, you just mentioned him. Like I like Nick Jensen too. Like he could be a nice pickup. I mean, honestly, there really isn't that many names that I would even think to bring in just off the top of my head, just looking at the list. I mean, Luke Shen, we talk about those guys all the time. No, I like Nick Jensen. That's who I'd go with.
That's not a bad one. I know some fans kind of want Jeremy Lauzon. That's not a bad one. The only thing, like, he's 29. I bet you he wants to win, and I bet you,
yeah, it's like Blankenberg.
He just tasted the Stanley Cup Finals. Like, I don't know if he necessarily wants to go to a rebuilding team, but I've got a good one here. I really like this one. Zach Bogosian. He's 36, or he will be 36 soon. He's only making $1.25 million last year. I'm sure you can get him in a similar deal. But what I liked most about it, he's like the Chris Tanev to Quinn Hughes for Zeev Buium, because when he first came here, I had interviewed him. We had a good conversation. I always have good conversations with Zeev. But I asked him at the very end, I was like, oh yeah, like, you've been kind of 8 throughout your career. You obviously can't have 8 because Garland's here. But why'd you pick 24? And he said, well, because Bogosian, like me and him were super close, and he taught me a lot and everything. So I took his number in honor of him, and I told him that, and he absolutely loved it. So I could see the connection there, like, yeah, Bogosian wants to come to a team with a bunch of kids, already has a relationship with Zeev Buium. He'll have a relationship with Rossi and Ogren as well from the Minnesota days. So that one makes a lot of sense to me, and hopefully, and like, he's everything that they want. He's a vet. He's physical. He's defense first kind of minded guy. He can shelter the rookie that he plays with. I think it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, I love it. Bring him in.
We'll see if that ends up happening. I don't expect the Canucks to be very very busy on July 1. Maybe not in the free agent market, but hopefully in the trade market. We'll see what RJ and this regime can kind of cook up. Will Jake DeBrusk officially get traded? Who knows? But I think that's a wrap. For this week's episode. We're doing it a little early just so we get it out before free agency, so we can talk about all these guys and make our predictions. For forward wise, I don't think I said it, but Colton Sissons. Anyway, thank you all for watching. It's been a busy week. We are going to take some time off in the summer. We're going to have one more show for sure after Dev Camp. Talk about that a little bit. I'm getting married in mid-July, and so we're going to take some time out. I don't know if we'll have a show on July 15th, but because I get married that week, it might be a little bit busy, so we might take a break then, but we'll kick it back up in late August, early September, once training camp and everything starts to get going. But anyway, that's a wrap on this episode. For Dave Hall, Jake Fraser, I'm Tyson Cole. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Blackfish.